Welcome, everyone. Hello from lovely, cloudy Seattle to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be. Thank you so much for joining me today on this. Satsang is such a privilege. When I was growing up, I'd never heard that word. Of course, I'd never heard the word yoga. I never heard the word enlightenment, right? Or awakening or anything like that. I grew up in the Midwest. None of this was ever thought of. Or, none of this had been imported yet, except for a couple of Zen centers on the coasts, like around New York and Los Angeles. But not even in Chicago, where I lived near, there was nothing there either. So having the opportunity to come in contact with that and to actually be in satsang with an actual master is really quite a rare opportunity, a rare privilege. And to sit here in that seat is a bit. It's kind of overwhelming. The subject I chose for today, which I actually chose over 24 hours before the actual program, before the satsang, which is very unusual for me. Usually it's just a few moments. But it's just been something that has been on my mind and my heart a great deal of late, and that is the allness of God. There's much talk about the oneness, right? And the one, and the oneness of all things, and the interconnectedness of all things. But that implies, although it's not often directly stated, the allness of God, the totality of God. Because when we think of the oneness or the one, we tend to think of it just simply the way our minds work, numerically, right? One as opposed to many. And so God being the one, it's thought of as a one. Well, there's God and then there's me. And of course, that is the dominant religious view around the world. That's the heart and soul of the Abrahamic religions, not as much the Eastern religions, and of course not at all in Buddhism. But even within the various Buddhist sects, this idea is very much still alive. This belief system is still very much around. So I thought I'd talk about the allness of God. Now, I use the word God, and I've been using it more lately. I kind of shied away from it for many years, actually. For the simple reason is it's loaded. It has so much overhead, so much associated with it that is cultural, the cultural costume, the cultural ideas, the concepts that have been laid upon the ultimate, the absolute. Joseph Campbell put it brilliantly when he said God is a metaphor for the self. It is one of the names of God. So when we use that word, we almost have to reclaim it, because it has been so misused. It was simply a word to try to articulate that which is beyond all words. Probably the highest in Hinduism is Brahma or Brahman, which represents exactly the same thing. The absolute beyond. It's pictured as a figure with faces all the way around, eyes everywhere, seeing everything. It's a symbolic representation of that essence and that allness that is God. So when I say all, I have to include all. Now, if you think of God as a person, as a personal being, as someone who occupies space somewhere, has a form, has an attitude, has particular characteristics, which all of the Abrahamic religions, which represent over half the world, and most of the others believe to be the case, then you don't have an allness. You have an all-powerness, power that's focused in a particular, well, it's really nothing more than a super being, a super person, right? The idea of an infinite personality is kind of an oxymoron. Can't have it. So coming to the sense of of divinity as not being a person becomes a bit of a leap, but it's a great start. As a matter of fact, I've got a blog that I just wrote called "God is Not a Person," which I think I'll be sending it out like on Tuesday or Wednesday. It's going to be released, and it addresses this universal concept of God as a person, and for the most part, not a very nice one. Especially the Abrahamic religions, he is not nice. He's capricious. He's jealous. He's petty. He's violent. And of course, I can get away with it. I'm God, right? So tough luck. There's no accountability. But let's just set all of that aside and consider the impersonal God, because to be all and to be one, it can't be a person. It must be something that is everywhere, not everywhere present, because then it's even dependent upon space, beyond space and time, but that everything you experience is in fact him or her or it. Pronouns don't work, right? There's no pronoun we can use to reference the absolute, what actually is at all. We can't use any of that we normally have, because obviously it can't be a gender, right? It can't just have the qualities of one gender or another, because everything that exists must be some aspect of this one that is all. I think a good metaphor for it, a good analogy, would be a composer and their music, or a great painter and their painting. It's like a Da Vinci or Van Gogh or a Picasso or something. Or any, Ravel, Stravinsky, Beethoven. When you hear a piece of music by any of these, you immediately recognize them. It's them, right? It's quite clear. It's like a signature, right? But it's not them. I mean, it's not like they got inside of that music and never came out again, right? It's not like they were limited to any particular piece. It was like this motif, this style, this energetic signature that was reflected in everything there was. God is like that. Everything that exists, everything that you experience, right, partakes of the nature of that original being, which is why you can say it is the allness of it. Like every piece of music by Mozart comes from the allness of Mozart. Mozart is in it and yet not in it at the same time. This is why God is referred to as absolute being. Whatever is partakes of the nature of God. Now, the closest words I can find to give expression to that which is not a person, is everywhere present, is not a principle in the sense that it's a cold mathematical thing, is still quite living and self-aware, is the term awareness or consciousness. You see, consciousness isn't just perceiving. Consciousness is also what is perceived. This is a mind blower for most because we see consciousness as kind of resident here, and it is aware of the objects within the environment. And yeah, we can recognize, like in a dream or in our waking state, that everything does appear within the consciousness, but we still insist that it's got some existence separate from it. The fact is that the content of the consciousness is consciousness. Everything you experience is consciousness. It is not something other than that is perceived by it. The actual knowing of it and the existence of it are one and the same. From there, you can begin to grasp the allness of God, the allness of consciousness. And of course, because everything you perceive is that consciousness, that includes you. So you are that consciousness. Everything you know about you, every thought you've ever had, every feeling, every sensation, every experience, every association, every memory, all of it for every lifetime you may ever have had has all been nothing but God. You do not exist independently from that one that is all. Ponder that. The great sage Bodhidharma, who brought Zen Buddhism to China, legendary character, not sure if he really existed. He's also credited with founding the Kung Fu and the Shaolin monastery. Quite a character. There's only 4 things written that were attributed to him. But one of the characteristics of his story, besides being killed and resurrected, sound familiar, was that after meeting the emperor of China and giving him a potent lesson he wouldn't forget, he went up to some cave in the mountain and meditated for 8 years, facing the wall. I pondered for a long time as to what that meant. And eventually it became clear, especially when you hear in the Heart Sutra, when it talks about breaking down the walls of the mind. And breaking that down is the end of fear. And so the wall that represented, and in fact, the Soto, I think it's the Soto school of Zen, actually meditates facing the wall. In the Zendo, they all sit around the side and they face the wall. It's symbolic of breaking down the assumption of our minds that what we are perceiving exists independently of our perception of it. And you can do a very simple exercise to examine that, to question that assumption. Again, don't take my word for it. Look carefully to see if you can find any evidence of its existence outside of consciousness. And if you can't, then you recognize that consciousness is not localized. It is not stuck in one place. It is not just, it is pervasive. It is all. It is all and one. because everything you perceived is that consciousness, including you, including me, including everybody else, including everything we identify as a form, has arisen in, is perceived by, and is made of consciousness or God. That is what the word God means to me. That is what it's meant to all the sages and mystics of all time. And to trade in the idea of God as being separate from us, something out there, in which case everything about this is a relationship based on rules and laws and obedience, right? It falls away. So we find that God is your consciousness, that which is perceiving, hearing my words right now, that which is looking out from behind those eyes is God. You can't get any closer than that. Matter of fact, it isn't even close. It's one. You are that. So, on that note, welcome again to Satsang, and welcome to your true nature. God is your true nature. So let me say hello to everyone, as I'm want to do, as I sip on my mate. Rosario in Madrid, there's Jerry's. John, Scotland. Hey, there's Ursula, Madeira Island. Hold. Hola from Lisa. Good to see you all. Denmark, Dorothy in Denmark. Ava in Poland. Brenton, LA. Greetings from Mary Sykes. Carl in Ireland. Wonderful, wonderful. Good title for Satsang. Thank you, Mary. Robert Hiller. Hello, everyone. And GP from Bob. Hey, Bob. Robbie from Armenia. Ida Catherine Angel, the Allness of God. Greetings from Norway. Love you, GP. You're a true gift. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, as are you. Because we are all the same being. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? There's only the one who is the all. Everything you see is the face of God. As they say in the Sufi saying, everywhere the eye lands, it sees the face of God. Our minds call it something else, but that's not what it is. Everyone you meet, every thought you have, even the ones you don't like, and the feeling of not liking it are God. There is nothing, no one else. Susan in New York, hello to you. Mary, I'm so happy to talk about the oneness source as I see it as everything, both, and as my spiritual mother used to tell me. Yes, the spiritual mother who was actually God. God is the identity, the true identity of all things. You could even refer to God as the ego of all being. It is the one and only self, which makes it yourself. No separation, no distance. You disappear into him, her, it is. Anya, it's indeed a rare honor to be with you. Your lighthouse, greetings to all. Thank you, Anya. Good evening to you, Peter, in Italy. Mary needed to hear this today. I needed to say it today. Look how that worked. Isn't that fantastic? Rosario, thank you, GP, for the introduction. It was great. You're welcome. Hello, Anthony here, Brazilian living in Halifax, Canada. Oh, wow. Wonderful. Hello, A. Wow. This is fantastic. Actually, I have my My business partner and also the co-host of my show, Lisa, and I have formally incorporated the Om School as an actual business entity in Canada, actually. The growth of School is solidifying, which is, I was having a place of deep spiritual education has always been a dream of mine. I don't have an actual location. It's still completely online, but it's one step forward in concretizing, instituting this kind of teaching of self-realization in solid, tangible form for everyone. So I'm quite fond of Canada and Canadians. So there's many people from Canada who take the classes and the like. So thank you, A. Brazilian living. I've been in Brazil too. What a wonderful place. Been there a couple of times. Yeah. Michelle, hello from Quebec. Hello, Michelle. I was actually in Ontario, that a little bit north of Toronto is where the official address is. There's not a spot where God is not. And that includes you. People think about it, there's nowhere God is, that God isn't. Well, except here. then there's me. There's no you. There's only God. Right? But as Balyani put it so brilliantly, he says, to know yourself is, quoting Muhammad, if you know yourself, you know your Lord. And he said that because there is no you. There is only God. And I think it even says that in the Quran. There is no God. There is only God. Right? This is the mystic picture. This is the mystic view. This is what Meister Eckhart saw. This is what Saint Francis of Assisi saw when he said, what you are looking for is where you're looking from. You might even say who you are looking for is where you are looking from. This is the mystic, and there's a mystic alive now in England. I can't remember his name, John Wilson, something like that. Marvelous fellow. I've listened to him. He's probably about 80 something. Just this wonderful, peaceful face. So the Christian mystics have been around, as have the Sufis are the mystic tradition in Islam, and everybody's familiar with Rumi or Balyani. There's another one. There's Hafiz. There's a few of them that just extraordinary because they saw this oneness, and they expressed this oneness, this allness of God, in the language of their particular tradition. So Christ became the metaphor for self-realization. God, the God realized as oneself, right? Let that mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. I and my Father are one. One of the most beautiful ones from the Gospel of Thomas is where Christ says, he who drinks of my mouth shall become as I am, and I shall be he. That's right out of the mouth of the sage of Nazareth, the most distorted character in all history, no doubt. His character and reputation commandeered by the Roman Empire for their own purposes. But at any rate, enough of that. The words and the spirit really do come. They shine through, even though only a small amount of what is attributed to him, even in the New Testament, it's believed he actually said. Most of it not. About 60-70% of it was was either dubious or completely rejected by scholars. Only 30 and only 13% of what's written in the New Testament are the scholars. And I mean bunches of them, not just one, right? But this particular study was over 70 of them that discussed it and worked. It was like a 10-year project. And only 13% of what is written and attributed to him, they're sure he said. About another 15, 18%, he could have said. So when you think about it, you see how distorted it has become. And then when something like the Gospel of Thomas shows up, which had been buried, the Nag Hammadi files, and these things become so clear, right? The kingdom of God is spread upon the earth, but the people don't see it. God is all, everything, everywhere, including you. You cannot truly think of yourself unless you think of yourself as that one. And your entire human life is the manifestation and self-expression of that one. And so is everyone else. You'll never look on anybody else again the same. Even the most reprehensible, obnoxious, pathological characters you could ever imagine, they too are him. This is so hard for us to grasp. And I recite again the story that Joseph Campbell, when he met Atmananda, who is a yogi, an enlightened being, and he became his guru. His very first meeting with him, his question was, in this teaching, everything is Brahman. Everything. There's only one, right? What do you do with all the barbarity, the stupidity, the cruelty, the greed? And Atmananda made the comment, he said, for you and me, we must say yes to it. Our minds are incredulous. But if we accept the premise, the simple premise that it must be this way, eventually the cloud that obscures, that makes this separation, will begin to fade away. As Rumi put it, beyond all ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I will meet you there. Mary, I was saying this to my friend Barb, that source has to be everything, good and bad. She had a hard time with what I said to her. Yes. Of course we're going to have a hard time with it. How do you make sense of Hitler, right? Or just America's genocide and cultural massacre of the Native Americans, let alone slavery, the incredible amount of cruelty and barbarity, and that's still going on. They're just inconceivable greed. People living better than the pharaohs did, while people are on the streets starving. Less than 1% of the people in the United States control over half of the assets. What is wrong with it? How can anyone see God in that? And this is where it becomes the matter of faith. As Atmananda said, for you and me, we must say yes to it. And then let that God self, that God energy, reveal the whole picture to you. Because it is consciousness only. We are not experiencing things as they actually are. And in a sense, the whole activity of the egoic mind, or in biblical terms, the devil, operating as if we were separate entities when we're not, and we've all experienced it, it's active in our lives, we still struggle with this thing we call the ego. What we see is the death throes of the egoic sense of existence. When the devil was kicked out of heaven, which interestingly enough is in the book of Revelation, which is a prophecy, and it's regarded as having happened a long time ago, when in fact it was prophesied to happen. It's really very interesting. But nonetheless, when the ego lost that battle with truth and was cast down in the earth, it said he wandered to and fro all around the earth because he knew he had but a short time. It's a marvelous image of how, even in a great awakening, we find that the body, the nervous system, the emotions are still acting as if there is an ego. They're still acting that out. And so while it doesn't actually exist as an entity, we experience it as such because it is still active within the system. And this is the area, and this is the place that we look to come to see the allness of God. Even the egoic mind is serving the ultimate one ego. That too is him. Please don't try to rationalize it. You won't be able to. Take it into your heart and let it unfold to you. Because God cannot be cruel. A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand. Cannot be both loving and punitive. It cannot give the gift and then punish you for having the gift. It cannot be both love and hate. But we have to get to a transcendent level of love that we can see is beyond our human ideas about it. So yes, your friend's going to have a hard time with that, as does everyone. I still find myself just shaking my head and going, say yes to it. Carl. Hi, GP. I've realized that my attention when I'm out on the world is everywhere except where I want it to be. And this felt normal. How can so much of my attention be hijacked when I spent so much time practicing being the observer? It was only through doing one of your courses that I realized this. I feel like I'm back at stage 1. You'll have that feeling of, Jesus, I'm starting over. You'll have that feeling more times before you're done, my friend. But the only reason you're seeing it and seeing more of it is because you are consciously in the practice of being the witness of it, right? And all that means is that there's still active within the system an identification with the false self, an identification with something that keeps grabbing the attention. Because remember, the attention, I don't know if you did that. Maybe you did that course of mine, your 4 amazing powers of creation: attention, belief, identity, and discrimination. Attention goes according to our beliefs, and our beliefs all revolve around the mother of all beliefs, which is the sense of identity. And the root of that is the thought, I am the body. That was the first one. And out of that, because it's not true, a complete superstructure of completely arbitrary, fictional characters and attitudes and dispositions and ideas and assumptions all emerged. All from that. You're not the body. You are the self. You're God. Right? And recognize that truth is what's moving you. That the truth of your being is what brought you to practice being the observer. You didn't choose that. Excuse me. What's going on? You didn't choose any of this. You didn't really choose to be here. Something has drawn you, right? Something has said to you, this is true. What is that voice that says it's true if it's not the voice of truth itself? So you simply go, wow, it's deeper than I thought. Look at my attention just bouncing everywhere. But now, what is it that's noticing the attention bouncing everywhere? Is that bouncing everywhere? That which sees the muddledness and confusion. Is it confused about what it's seeing? Is the seeing of it muddled, or is it crystal clear? Yes, it felt normal when you were more identified with the egoic mind. As that separation is taking place and there's less identification with the body mind, all of that activity that you took for granted is going to become visible. It's going to become obvious. You've walked into the room you haven't been in for 20 years, you turned on the lights, and it's like, oh, okay, it's a room, it's a good room, but I got to clean it up, right? But it's not like you have to like grab your attention, right? We don't have to practice concentration. There are practices for that. There's a lot of yogic stuff about that, but you don't need it. That's not this path. It's only becoming aware of being aware, making sure that you keep bringing your attention, your inner focused attention back to what you are aware of, because you'll notice that you're even aware of attention. It's always reporting to you. It's like there's not another attention that's aware of that attention. You become aware of being the consciousness to which attention is reporting. And so even attention, you see, is just kind of darting around out of habit. Right? Your job is to become more rooted, abide in that place that is seeing the attention, and it will eventually stop jumping. It will eventually start to become much more cooperative and unobedient, and reveal even more, right? Because even attention, even the most focused attention, cannot see you. You can't see you. You can only know you and be you. Knowing and being are the same. So how can so much of my attention be hijacked when I've spent so much time practicing being the observer? Ultimately, you'll witness the fact that it was hijacked, but also the hijacking is being observed. That the hijacking process was just so subtle you didn't realize it, you didn't recognize it, because attention always obeys something other than itself. It's not self-acting. It is, and it's either obeying the impulses of what remains of that false sense of self, or it's obeying you. So allow that to sink in more deeply. Humble us. Go, wow, okay. And be genuinely grateful, even celebratory, that this has been revealed. It means you're on the road to truth. That the truth is guiding you back to itself. And what is that truth other than yourself? And so it becomes, every time we see something we didn't see, we go, oh, thank God. Thank God. And it's all consciousness. None of it is separate from me. Even the beliefs about me are not separate. They don't live without you. They don't exist. There's not a belief repository somewhere that, that you go or you pass by a bush and it jumps on you. They don't exist without you. And they are sustained only by the notion that there's something other than you. You're not fighting a mind. You're fighting the belief in a mind. Okay? So you can stop fighting it because it's just a belief. There's nothing there to fight. I think I'm kind of digressing a little bit, but I'm allowed to do that. And I'm to tell you all, I'm very proud of myself. You see this plant here and this one here? They're over a month that I've had them, and they're still healthy. And I'm really bad with plants. I am so pleased that it's working that I'm thinking of getting another one. Maybe one of these days I'll even get a cat or something. I just, anyway, congratulations to, oh, thank you, Mary. Yeah, you're referring to the solidifying of the organization. And John says, so why do bad things happen? Yeah, I think I covered that, but it's worth repeating. I think it's one thing to say, okay, it's all God, that's just the way it is. That's not really very satisfying, is it? Right? On one hand, there's a part of it that yearns to see that this is the allness of God. On the other side, there's going, how can this be? Right? If you're a true spiritual aspirant, you will be willing to sit in the middle of what is in fact a total conundrum. How can this be? At the same time, holding that out, right? To God, say, God, how can this be? And at the same time go, the allness of God, it's obviously true. How can these two things be? If you're willing to sit in that place, right, eventually the answer comes. But it doesn't come from a rejection of anything, nor does it come from making God personal. It comes from someplace altogether differently. The willingness to do that is really a very high, a mature spiritual state, because most people want an answer, right? If you're a Christian, it's man and his free will. It's in his downfall, and it's his sinful nature that's doing it, and God didn't do it. Even though it says in the Old Testament, God says, I created evil, I did all these things. Right? So you're going to go, what? What? If you can just say yes to both. Yes, this is horrible. and I'm incredulous, but yes, this must be the case. God must be all. If you can say yes to all of that and just be with it, you're in that position. By the way, after Joseph Campbell's meeting with Atmananda, which went on for about an hour, it was just wonderful. Atmananda's attendant said to him, to Joseph, that is exactly the same question he brought to his guru the first time he met him. So you can see this is more than just, I want to get an answer to it. This is an existential question of the highest order. And only those who are willing to not take a side, who are not willing to just grab a position and make this right and somebody else wrong, will get the actual true answer. And that true answer is your awakening. It is self-realization. So if you are that God, then how do you answer that question? Hello, Egle. Wonderful to have you here. Mary, I keep pretending that I'm not God, but catching myself when I do. Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, God pretending she's not God, and then catching herself. God playing hide and go seek with herself, and it really is that. God keeps pretending it's not God. As Moochie likes to say, it's God in drag. Wonderful, wonderful. Oh, John says, John Butler. Yes, John Butler in England. Oh, look him up. He's an old guy, but he's a Christian mystic. He's here with us right now. Look him up. Watch some of his videos. They're utterly delightful. Oh, they will just put you at peace. The man reeks with peace. It is just extraordinary. And to see him talk about it in Christian terms, wonderful. John Butler. Thank you, John Watson. Yes. Oh, God, what a wonder. My ex-boss is God. I'm going to need a few more satsangs for that. Gee. Yes, your ex-boss, your ex-wife, or wives, your or husbands. Um, that pathological narcissist who used to run a country, um, the juvenile delinquent kid. Lord, rid me of ego and merge me with you. I don't get it. Wonderful. Fox is here. I'm new. Hello, Fox. Welcome, Fox Silver. Good to have you. Good to have you. Love hearing about the new people. Carl, yes, your four amazing powers of creating course. Good. Actually, filled in a lot of missing pieces for me. Wonderful. 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 Yes. I love satsang because I can speak completely in the absolute. I don't have to water anything down. I can be very, very precise. I don't have to sugarcoat it, right? And at satsang, I speak to the highest level. Sometimes I have to drop down to meet people where they are. But in all the other stuff, I have courses ranging from somebody who has no idea what I'm talking about, who is just suffering in their life, and various kinds of processes and techniques to help prepare the soil. Because this is the ultimate inquiry. But just getting a bunch of YouTube videos isn't going to prepare you, because the language, the whole thing of the non-dual inquiry is inquiry into the context itself. It's the way in which we perceive things. And when non-dual ideas are simply presented as concepts, they're received in the same context that the person's used to, and so they get distorted. They're not understood. They may even be kind of grasped intellectually, but they don't get in and take root. And oftentimes they'll become, awakening now. My God, everywhere I look, I see the word awakening, and almost none of them refer to it in terms of what it actually means, including even woke, which means I have a much better advanced view on politics and the world and economics and the like. So that makes me woke. So the word is being borrowed. I'm happy that the word has entered in to the mainstream lexicon, but as you can see, without some kind of a guidance and preparation, it's going to be misunderstood. It's inevitable. I misunderstood it at first until Zen Buddhism, and I heard Nisargadatta, and I read I Am That. I went, holy shit. Bam, cut right through all of it, even though I'd been playing on the event horizon, doing and coming, I just couldn't get it. Just couldn't get it. Karmic momentum. There's a whole lot of things that go into it, but don't. Anyway, so Roseanne, hello. Roseanne, I heard this the other day and thought of you. When you hear truth from someone and sense love, then it's the real truth. I always feel so much love when you speak, GP. I feel love. And well, I am love. You are love. The love in you is what feels the love. There's not two loves. There's not many loves. There's not many awarenesses. There's not many consciousnesses. The love you feel that is inspired by you is the love that is speaking. There isn't any other than love. Love is another word for God, as his consciousness, as his awareness, as his truth, as his beauty, as his spirit, as his soul. They're all words for that, right? That, and all you can say is, I am that. Right? And wow. So yes, When the truth comes in the heart, when the mind can recognize it, but when the heart recognizes it, you know it's the real deal. And you're harmonizing the two, because there's a disconnect. There's the intellectual part, and the heart is usually kind of relegated to sentiment or emotions, but they're actually one. The Chinese symbol for heart and mind are the same symbol, right? They don't have the same kind of division between it. There's this. There are two aspects of the same thing: Sat Chit Ananda, being, consciousness, bliss, being, mind, heart. Right? You could see it in that way. It is one, and the very nature of being. Mary says, you're good daddy, those plants. Bless you from another plant lover. I love plants, and I've just never been very good at them. So I've gotten better at those. Very little sunlight. I'll take them out back when it's raining and set them out there. And learning at the right touch of when they're going to need water and when they don't. And I'll get some grow lights too here. So maybe put up some more. But again, I'm still kind of wandering. I'm not sure how long I'm going to be here. I mean, I know I'm going to be here till next April, but I've already got some trips planned, including one to Europe. Not that far off. Not for an extended period of time, sure. But anyway, so I've got to have bear that in mind. Make sure my son can come over, or my sister, and take care of them. Anyway, Dixie Rocks 20. Is there a way to ask questions to GP, a face group or something? Yes, there most definitely is. I think it's, I may even have a link to it. No. Oops. Let's see. It's facebook.com/groups/GP Walsh. Yeah, that's it. And you can join there, and I do stuff there. I'm also running a subscription program where I meet with people once a week for an hour or so. I also do a video for that I do. So, and I have a special email for people because it really helps. Having that income helps things go on, because most of what I do is for free, and I'm not independently wealthy, independently happy, but not independently wealthy. So if anybody knows can put a link in for the actual link to the group, I want to take the time to type it in now. Facebook/groups/GP Walsh. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yeah, and Sally, who administrates that for me, will be happy to let you in. And yes, you can ask all the questions and make all the comments, whatever you like. And the questions bubble up. Sally always makes sure that I get them. And some of them I've even made videos for, because they required a more in-depth explanation. So I do everything I can to give everybody everything they need to be able to walk this path, and to make it as accessible as I possibly can. So I look forward to the day when money is obsolete. Mary says, yes, both and all. Yeah, there's not two. Igley, I've actually experienced this many times, that God is everything, even the most horrible things. And it is such a relief. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You just kind of sink into it. And if you stay with it long enough, all fear will disappear, because how can you possibly be afraid of God? That is, how can God be afraid of God? I'm not afraid of my hand. And so I'm only afraid of my own ideas. And my ideas of others have all emerged from the idea of me. I am the body mind. That belief became a person, and the ego and behaviors. And then it assumed that there were others, and that they too were that. And from there came fear of death, fear of lack, fear of rejection, fear of being alone, which all come down to the fear of death. But there's no death for God. There was no birth for God. There was no beginning and no end. Everything emerges from God, like songs from music, and partakes of the nature of God. All of that is just an appearance. In fact, nothing actually really exists. Look closely. Everything is changing so fast. And so on so many different levels, you can say, as Buddha recognized, nothing actually exists at all, except Buddha nature. He called it emptiness, shunyata. But you'll just notice that the mind will come back, because it's got a lot of karmic momentum behind it, in being a person, and it can come as thoughts, but it can also come as feelings, a fear that you have no idea where it came from, a tension, pain, physical pain, right? All of these things just recognize them for what they are, and abide in that place, and notice that even those reactions are God, which means they are in fact one with you. The worry, the doubt, the fear, everything that comes up is still you. And even then, the fear it loses its sting. It can't hold on anymore. Right? And it has to just kind of melt back into that pool of potential that everything emerges from. And that pool of potential is consciousness, aka you. Faith, in my chic, my spiritual tribe. You're in Vienna. Wonderful. Is this like temporary, or did you make the move? Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh. Please tell me, is this like you're there permanently? You're living there now? Apologize for my camera. My equipment is kind of funky. But I really want to know, Faith. Oh. Kiran, namaste to you. Susan, God is impersonal, yet also love. That made more sense once I saw the love was not love, hate, but unconditional. It seemed to say yes to all: war, peace, good, bad. Am I understanding this correctly? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Absolutely, you are. This love is just total unconditional acceptance, even of the worst. Right? Because how else could that love be? How else could forgiveness touch humanity if there was not a love that was completely unmoved by its stupidity? It has to. And you are that love. The essence of love, right, is love itself, which is another word for God, which is beyond anything. It's the being of which everything is an expression. And you know that. How many different ways can we express love? I mean, you do it how many different ways every day, even with the same people, right? Sometimes it's a gift, it's a hug, it's just remembering them, it's thinking about them fondly. But we also love our work, we love music, we love art, we love all sorts of things, right? And what is hate? Right? Hate isn't a thing, it's a negation, right? It is love that is too small. And so it holds on to this like the sense of being a person, right? And denies the other, and therefore judges the others. That's all it is. It's a love that is too small. When that expands to include everything, there is nobody unlovable anymore. And you see that hate has never been a reality. It has always been a negation. Like, imagine a triangle, right? We have the triangle is a thing, right? But now cut a triangular hole in the wall. Right? There's nothing there, and yet it's a triangle. It's a negation. It's like the negative of an image, right? Those of you who remember before digital cameras, actual film, where you got a negative, and that negative then had to be turned into a positive. It was the same. It was just backwards, right? And just, there's no such thing really as hate. It is only love that has become captured by the egoic mind and put and made an other. When that's gone, there's nothing but love. Love is unconditional. We can't grasp that, right? I mean, we're always assessing and doing things in our everyday life, and we have to. This is better than this. You know, you look at the world stage, and I go, "What's the most loving thing?" And I assess it. This, you know, and you hear me very critical about a lot of the stuff that's going on, because I'm assessing it from that point of view. But at the same time, I have to have this unconditional love that accepts this is the way it is. Okay, this is the way it is, and God is all. Okay. Help. Here I stand. Oh, Lord, I can do no other. So help me, God. Amen. Yes, you are understanding this correctly, Susan. And just dig into it. Dig into the apparent ambiguity of it, the apparent irreconcilable nature of it, and you will find the oneness. And hate will disappear because fear will disappear. With fear gone, there is no hate. What is there to hate? When there's only love, you know, Christ said, love your enemies, but looking deeper, you could see, if you love your enemies, you don't have any. There are no enemies. I have to create those in my mind. And that's why. Yeah. And that's why they don't really exist as a reality, only as a concept. And all concepts are transient and temporary. They come and go. And yes, they too are God. But they can express anything within being. Anything that exists partakes of that, of God's DNA. Liza, what is intuition in the context of non-duality? Well, what's our experience of intuition? Set aside the word for a minute, right? Because we get wrapped up in the words. You know, the moment I put a label on something, the mind tends to kind of, you know, cordon it off, you know, partition it into this little thing, and say, okay, that's what it is, and doesn't allow for any of the subtlety, any of the nuance. It's a living, dynamic thing. Life is like that. The mind isn't. It wants to categorize and put in little boxes and things like that, right? But that's useful, you know, for analysis and conversation and language, right? But it can't capture the incredible subtlety and nuance of life. So what is the experience of intuition? There's an unarrived at, a spontaneous knowing, isn't it? Just suddenly you just know. It's like a hit. And you not only know, you know. There's this thing that happens. Something pops up and there's a recognition of it. Right? We are usually so focused on the intuition itself that we don't recognize that it couldn't happen if there wasn't something in me that recognized it as such. One can speak a truth to, you know, a million people, and one will get it. One will go, oh. And the other 999,999 will go, huh? So what is it? Same truth, right? Same words, and even the same speaker. So what is it? So intuition is your relationship with truth as yourself. It is the recognizing of yourself as truth in something expressing that truth, be it a thought, an insight, a creative idea, an inspiration. Right? That's what intuition is. And what is it in context of non-duality? It is yourself recognizing yourself. It is you seeing yourself in the mirror of life, of which you are both the source of and the witness of. And that's what makes it not two. You are not witnessing something other than you. You are witnessing yourself, and that self appears as the infinite variety and novelty and beauty of creation. You are looking at your own nature. And all of this depends on an intuition. Even when I ask you, are you aware or do you exist? And you answer yes, that's an intuitive hit. You don't refer to something. It's what you're referring to know you exist is your very existence. It's unbelievably subtle, but where else are you going to look? I exist because I have a social security number? No, I know I exist. How? I don't know. I just do. That's intuition. You just know. And that's the most subtle. That's the most primary, but everything is like that. And we get intuitive hits all the time. Right? We just don't recognize it as such because of still this subtle sense of separation. Like there's something outside of us that is delivering some special information. And it could feel like that, right? But the less you're identified with the person, the more these intuitive hits will be seen as an outward expression of my inward being. And that they're not two at all. I'm looking in a mirror, right? Like singing a song, I and the song are one, right? Because the song doesn't exist without me. So I am that. So you are the intuitive hit, and that's what makes it non-dual. Remember, the non-dual is the actual nature of things. The dual is the experience of it. So even the non-dual and the dual are one. They are not two. They are two aspects of the same thing. Without duality, there is no experience. With just one, as one, there can be no experience whatsoever. God does not even know herself. The knowingness of the self, the intuitive knowingness, is the universe. It is God knowing itself, and that is it appears as a duality, as diversity, as yin-yang, as masculine, feminine, as up-down, as light and dark. Right? But that's only what it appears, because it is simply the expression, the aspect of that which is beyond all opposites and includes them, hence not two. Is that good, Lisa? Nice. Brent, Brother G, can you walk me through what death will be like from my perspective? Imagine you've had a whole bunch of dreams during the night. Some have been great, some have been horrible. And in the morning, you wake up. And the dreams, which are so vivid, and may even have the energy running through your body, they start to fade away. And after a while, they're not remembered at all. The experience of it, the tactile, the aural, the visual, all of it has just kind of fallen away, and you're now standing somewhere else. Now imagine that on steroids. Everything you know, loved, done, your body, your feelings, whatever was going on in your body, being in pain, it just suddenly just kind of is, there's a gap between it, and suddenly it isn't the same for you anymore. You're not in it with all of its feelings and thoughts, all of it, the entire experience, right? And then there's a sense then, of course, of pure peace, because there's absolutely no sensation, there's no experience other than being. And you'll recognize that without words, I haven't died. It will simply be a self-evident fact. No words, no discussion. You just know. And some of it may linger for a while. And some of that energy may even persist. Now, if you're properly prepared, you'll recognize that that was completely subjective, that your entire life was a dream. It seems so real, so true, but it wasn't. And then it's somewhere along the path there'll be an energetic impulse. You know, sometimes you can linger there for a while. You can resolve old conflicts. Again, you're not going to be resolving with your mind because you don't have one. It's all direct, intuitive, unrestricted knowing. Oftentimes, people like near death, they believe they're speaking to God, but in fact, it's simply a knowing without words that is inherent in them, but they've not learned that yet. And so inevitably, there will be another life for them. In between, if you are properly prepared, you will recognize it for what it is. And even that, the vasanas, the repository consciousness, the impulse that will want to create another life will be seen as just more of the same. That is the energy that is run through every single life. Right? And at that moment, you'll be standing at the doorstep of nirvana. And, in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, that's that period of time between that and your new birth is 49 days. Remember, there's no time there or space. So, is it 49 days? But they base on, and in fact, it's only after the 49 days that the person is actually cremated. Right? I believe that's the way it works. And every day, the dead body, a monk comes and talks to them about everything that's happening. They would talk to the dead body. Okay, we're at day 10. This is what you're going to be experienced. And to bring up back those practices and the like. And at the end of that, they will then have the cremation. And if it's a saint or if it's an important lama, they actually look for artifacts in it, little pearls and things like that show up. They also follow the smoke that tells where their next birth is going to be. Because the lamas choose to be reborn, the bodhisattvas, to save all beings from suffering. So, does that answer it for you, Brent? Please don't try to conceive of this. Right? Don't turn this into some kind of a theology. I say these things so you lose the fear of death. And the real sting of fear of death is that you're going to lose something valuable. Right? And if you come to see that you are that allness, when the dream goes away, this appearance goes away of all the people that you've known and loved and the things and all of it, there'll be no sense of a loss because they are you. Right? And a whole new world may emerge. I can't even speak about that. I don't really even, beyond that point, I can't reach. Right? That's the realm of Buddhas. So, Sue Shaw. Hi, Sue. All that is seen is illusion. Yes. But now let's be clear about what an illusion is. Right? What's the illusion? I always use this example because I think it's a really good one. You know, there's this story of the snake and the rope. You know, you don't have to kill the rope to get rid of the snake. The mirage in the desert to me is such a graphic example. I mean, the desert is there. There's heat in the desert. It's hot. You're thirsty. The sun is beating down, right? There are heat waves rising from the sand, distorting the air. That's all there. The mirage isn't. That's a projection of the mind. So a lot of people will say, oh, it's all an illusion, and dismiss it. They're missing the point. Right? It's not that you are an illusion or I'm an illusion per se. But if I think that you're something that you're not, I'm in an illusion. Right? The sun appears to be moving, right? But it's not. We are. But we don't have that sense of it because everything's moving at the same time. So we don't have that sense of it. But now we know that to be the case. Is the appearance in front of our senses any different? If the sun was going around us, would it look any different than it does now? Right? So it is, an illusion is a misinterpretation of what is perceived. And at the heart of this illusion is the belief, I am the body, which makes me this and that other. And I believe that I am experiencing something separate from myself. That's the illusion. It's real. You're real. Everybody here is real. These plants are real. The computer, it's all real, but it has no independent existence. Its reality is, it is the manifestation of the self. It is God. When you see everything as God, there's no more illusion. It doesn't mean you don't see the camera or your computer or your friends. Of course you do, but they're God. They're not two. They're not something other than that. That's the illusion. That's the mirage. It's not the desert. That's the snake. It's not the rope. Right? Just seeing that, oh, it's not a snake. It's a rope. Boom. Illusion gone. Is that clear to everyone? It's very important because it's not like, oh, I'm going to wake up and nothing's going to be here. No. Like that at all. It's just that, you know, that the tree, I'm looking at trees outside my window. They're just no longer trees. They're God. Every little bit and piece of it, every atom in it, every branch, every fiber, every leaf is God. And the totality of his God, it's just God on level after level after level, down to the subatomic, down to space itself. It is all her. I just prefer the feminine adjective for God because of the love. It's just, the goddess energy is just much more, it feels much more close. I missed Ava. Ava, your words today resonating so deeply within. I'll be listening again and again. They're opening the gates to the real surrender. Thank you for that, Tucci. You're welcome. So welcome. I cannot lose what I am. I cannot lose what I am not. Thank you, GP. Yes, you're so welcome. Ava says, yes, they bring a deep relief. A deep relief. Just feeling gratefulness. Thank you. Sue says, hate is a lack of love. Yes, it is. I don't even give it that much credit. Are you saying hate is a distortion of love? I don't give it any credit whatsoever. I remove from hate all of its impetus, all of its passion. That which moves life is always love and life. Always. That's the only thing that actually has motion. When I misinterpret that through my illusion of a personal self, and I create the sense of an other that is my enemy or I'm antagonist or he's less than me in some way, right? Which is all just a reflection of me trying to make myself something safe and important and significant, that passion gets distorted, right? And it becomes, and it animates hate. But its nature is love. It is the desperate search for love. It is the desperate search for wholeness, distorted via the illusion into hate, into indifference, into cruelty. All driven by the sense of being a person that can have a personal gain. It is the egoic mind. But the egoic mind is an activity, right? It is a distortion. It is an illusion, right? But it's an illusion that gains impetus. It gains animus, right? Because it is believed, right? And so it ends up being a love that's too small. I have to put it that way, because love can exist without hate. Hate cannot exist except as an opposite of love. It can't. There's no such thing as hate functioning separate from it. Love, yes. Love can function quite well without hate. But hate cannot. So you can see that it is a negation. It's a twist. It's the negative, right, of the photo. And so, yes, it is a distortion. Yeah. It's those. None of the words really capture to do it justice. And no matter how hard I explain it, we're just, that's something inside that just can't accept it. Be with that, because that's the thing that will separate this wheat from the chaff. And so you'll see it clearly, and it will be the end of hate and fear. Because remember, in order for hate to end, there must be some place of pure love where there isn't any room for hate. The unconditional, pure, infinite love. And that place is you. And same to you, Sue. John Lane, 010101, the Matrix explained it perfectly. It did. That was quite a brilliant movie, and really was quite a mind shift for a lot of people. Yeah. Except that even the place they went to out of the Matrix is also in the matrix of the illusion of life as a person. But of course they couldn't go there. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Is God constantly reinventing himself through us? Creation is God's constant pondering of her own nature, his own nature. Right, pronouns make no sense. That's it. It is spontaneous appearing. Creation was not a moment in time. There is no time. It is like the film going through a projector, right? It's just, or your computer screen, right? It appears, look at a part of your computer screen that's static. It's not moving. Well, there's not a picture there. It's a picture that is of the same thing, but your screen refreshes 60 times a second. 60 times a second, lights are going on and off, right? So fast that we cannot see them go off, right? So it looks like there's a consistent, seamless picture here. There isn't. Same thing with film going through a camera, right? When you're talking about the self, it is seamless because there's no time. It's all right now. And so time is in the image that it is manifesting of itself. Because of its infinite nature, it takes eternity to unfold it. And so no second is the same as the previous. There's a pattern integrity to it. It's not chaotic because the self is not chaotic, right? Although sometimes it is, like in our dreams. Sometimes something very sudden seems to come out of nowhere. And then it's like, whoa, where's the consistent? So it is the dynamism of consciousness that is in its dynamic aspect, in its self-knowingness, gives rise to all of this. So God is the inexhaustible source of being, and so all being is perpetually unfolding, and it is never the same. Right? It is. This is the mystery, because no matter how thinly you slice time, you will never find anything that exists. It is a flow, and there's nothing apparently flowing. I mean, you could use the example of like a sine wave, right? In sound, right? If you take any chunk of that wave, you don't have the wave anymore. You can't break the wave into parts. It has to be this. And so you're basically seeing eternity and the timeless now at the same time. Form is emptiness. Oh, it's so difficult to put this into words. I feel like a babbling child. So it's, I'm only taking issue with the word reinventing because this isn't an act of will on the part of the divine. It is the nature of the divine itself. Like growing your hair is not an act of will. It is simply the nature of hair, the body, and all of that. The universe is the nature of God. It's not an act of will. It's not. So creation is a misnomer, right? It's not creation. It's her. It is myself. Can you separate one's nature from you? They're one. The universe is God's nature. Does that help, Sue? Andrew? I still feel the need to play along. Supposing, is there some more here? I still feel the need to play along. Just observe it, Andrew. It's okay. Of course, this is life. The energy of life is happening. I don't have no interest in stopping it, right? I rather enjoy it, right? Let it come, let it go, let all of it happen. Just bring your attention back to the point of perception, the point of cognition that recognizes the need. What is it that feels that need? Right? Does that have the need to play along, or is that the playing along and the need part of what's appearing on the screen? And if that's the case, then I can watch it play on the screen and play along. Why not? Right? Enjoy it. Have a life, have friends, have relationships, right? This is part of the playing. Just recognize that who you are. And when you recognize who you are, you'll see all of it, the playing along, the dancing, all of it is you. This is the celebration of the self. This is divine love rejoicing in her own glorious, unparalleled, unexcelled beauty. So you don't need to not play along with life as it is happening. We simply do not play along with the mind's illusions that I am somebody in that life playing along. It's subtle, but that's all you have to concern yourself with, not what's happening in life. Life is fine. It's just fine. Just know who you are. that you are the timeless, changeless, immovable consciousness before which all of this is playing and out of which all of it is made. Liza, very helpful answer. Thank you so much for the insight. Oh, you're very welcome. Susan, thank you for your answer. Yes, God's unconditional love seems very different than what I transiently love as a human, pleasure, food, money saved, etc. It is hard to reconcile, but I do see it. Beautiful. Yes. Yes. It seems impossible to reconcile. It's like, what? WTF? What? Okay. Lord, I take you at your word. I take it on faith. Right? That you are, in fact, me. That who I'm looking for is where I'm looking from. That there's no me, that there is only you. That the consciousness I call mine is, in fact, you. I take that. And I see all of this stuff and I go, what? What? Okay. Lord, open my eyes. Right? That kind of a prayer. It's just like, you know what? I can't do this, but I trust you. I have faith in this. It feels true. Right? Show me the way. Right? Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. I lay myself at your feet. I surrender to your will. Enlighten me. Let me be you. It's a mystic prayer. Huge help. Thank you, G. You're welcome, Brent. Yes, grateful, says Sue. Thank you. Divine feminine. Yes. Yes, the feminine aspect of God. And, we've been living with the masculine aspect. So intensely, though, that Yahweh, the Jewish God that became, that supposedly, got angry for us for doing what he created us to do in the first place, and then had to basically butcher his own son in order to appease his wrath, is the only God in all traditions that doesn't have a feminine counterpart, does not have a consort. So no wonder he's angry. No wonder he's pissed off all the time. He's a frustrated old man. In fact, there is some evidence I've seen come up that at one time Yahweh did have a feminine partner, and that somehow that got completely expunged as Judaism took form. So it's hard to say. A lot of the stuff is just lost in antiquity, and it's mythological anyway. 99% of the events in the Bible never happened. The people never existed. They're mythological characters. That's just because the way the mind works, it concretized them into actual beings, and so the myth became history. And now we're fighting over it, right? The modern Christians have to prove that it was historically a fact. They've painted themselves in a corner. There's no evidence. There's no evidence for Jesus, right? Other than the words themselves. So I knew there was somebody of that caliber. I don't know any of the circumstances of his life, if any of that happened, but the kind of things he said, the words that left after him, especially when you whittle it down to what he really did say, that was the words of a sage. That didn't come from somebody who was just a Jewish scholar who knew their way around the Bible or something. There was a level of inspiration there that went beyond the Judaism of his day. So I say there was really a sage, because that had to come from somewhere. Was his name Yeshua? Who knows? Who knows? Was he born of a virgin? Don't think so. That's actually a Greek tradition that made its way in. That's a whole other story. But nonetheless, the divine feminine is manifest in the feminine. The consciousness that you are is neither. It has no gender, but its nature is of such that both genders emerge from it. And of course, how else would you have the joy of union without the duality that is complementary? How would you do it? You couldn't. This is the way it has to be. And so we can refer to the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and the reality, the essence, which is beyond both, which is beyond all human research, all language. It cannot be articulated. You cannot know it, you can only be it. Fox, how does one deal with what is perceived to be a collective pain, the perceived pain of creation? How do you hold it or see through the illusion? Peace and thank you. Beautiful question. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, this is the ordeal of the Bodhisattva. This is the challenge we all have to take up, as Atmananda said to Joseph Campbell. We must say yes to it. Right? Getting ourselves to the point where we can say yes to it can take some work. It can take some processing. It can take some spiritual guidance. Right? How do you deal with it? On a practical level, you alleviate as much pain and suffering as you possibly can and cause as little as you possibly can. Okay, that's just on the practical level. And that's a very simple, direct tenet or precept that anyone can live by. I vow to do as little harm as it is possible for a human being to do. And I vow to alleviate as much suffering and pain as I possibly can. And that's why I teach things like EFT and different kinds of energy techniques. I just don't focus exclusively on the non-dual. It's the ultimate answer, but there's this whole other level. How do you deal with people who have pain? As a spiritual counselor, I have had just countless people coming to me with just stories of horrific abuse. Just so stunning. I mean, it would make your hair stand on end. If I hadn't been through all of this myself and gone through everything that I'm teaching you guys to go through, I wouldn't be able to handle it. It's just the horror stories that arise. How do you hold that kind of pain? Well, you need to learn to do it. And how do you do that? You start by holding your own. You start by simply making friends with your own feelings, by becoming loving towards yourself. That's where it starts. We find we are in such state of self-judgment and self-denial because the person we think we are is less than the person we really are and will never be adequate. And so there will always be self-judgment, self-criticism. There'll always be an attempt for self-improvement. I'm going to be better. I'm almost there, right? The idea that that person you're trying to improve doesn't exist and the real you needs no improvement. Whoa. There's where the source of all the pain is. The source of pain is the idea I am the body. When I lost touch with the truth of me, my soul, which is consciousness, that's what happened. That's what our show is. The Om School Live on Tuesday. That's the name of it this week, is Soul Disconnected. I talk all about this. We'll be going, Lisa and I will be going into depth into that. When you do that, it's inevitable that your heart opens to see the collective pain around you. You can't help it. You cannot help it, right? But when you have learned to transmute that pain and suffering within yourself, it very naturally begins to open up and take it from others, not taking on their pain, like some martyr kind of thing, or a lot of empathics that I hear who, feel others' feelings and don't know what the hell to do with them. I don't mean that. Because your power to transmute is such, the pain, it's like you're the lightning rod that diffuses it. You're grounded. It goes through you, right? This is the capacity we can all cultivate to heal. This is the real meaning of energy healing, is that at the energetic level, the self-hatred, the self-criticism, the deep traumas that are in everybody's body that are creating this false sense of identity and the resulting suffering, right? Deep inside is an original innocence that's looking for safety. And if you have started to become safe for you and can hold that safe space, it'll find you. There's a safe space. People just kind of come because they can feel you're not a threat. They can feel that it's okay for them there. When I was young, many of you may know the story that I was very, very abused as a kid. I never felt safe. I never felt loved. I never felt at home. My sister, who was 13 years older than I, and got married when I was like 5 and moved out. She was like 18 or 19 or something, which was common in the mid-50s. Right? But it was the one place that I remember where I didn't feel under constant attack or threat. And I loved it when she came over. I would just hang out with her and I'd just be with her because she genuinely loved me. And when I got older and I could drive, I'd go visit her. And she had parties and I'd go and get drunk with her. And we'd have, and to this day, she's 84 now, 83. And she doesn't live nearby and we are still absolutely tight. She saved my life. So you can be that. Sorry about that. You can be that. You can be that enlightened witness that bears witness to their innocence. And in so doing, you become that safe space. And it is that safe space that is what diffuses all of that. The safe space is what tells the whole body-mind mechanism, it's okay. You can let this go. You are loved. Because it's in this constant state of defensiveness. That's why I refer to it as inner reconciliation. You're learning to create a space so safe that even the worst of us can come up. The stuff we're so embarrassed at, our dirty secrets, all of it. You're creating a space that can only be called unconditional love. And all of the inner conflict, the trauma, it is all reconciled. Reconciled in the great heart of love. So does that help, Fox? How do you see through the illusion? The illusion has to be seen as an illusion. It's that simple. We have to, once it's seen as an illusion, it begins to fall apart. It's only sustained by the fact that we still think there's something real there. That's it, right? And when somebody's talking about their suffering and the pain, I can see that it's an illusion. I can see that it is all a projection of the mind on experience. But I can't always say that. To say that, and there's a lot of people do that Advaita stuff. Oh, it's all an illusion. Don't worry about that. What are you doing? You're making a big deal out of it. It's cruel. It's cruel. It's beyond what they can possibly conceive. So what do? Right? If somebody's desperately hungry, do you tell them hunger is not real, or do you feed them? Feed them first, right? This is the simple reality. This is the beauty of the Bodhisattva practice. This is the beauty of Tibetan Buddhism, which is very different from Zen, but this is what it's all about, right? Is meeting people where they are, right? To make them feel loved where they are. Once we feel loved and safe, the rest will take care of itself. It will heal the illnesses. It will awaken the mind. It will take us out of these harsh positions that we've gotten ourselves caught in. Why is the United States so horribly polarized now? It is fear. Nobody feels safe, right? Rights being taken away, support being taken away, the social network, the social contract gone. People don't feel safe. So what do? Right? They resort to the worst kind of primitive behavior, right? They become tribal in the worst sense of the word, right? Me against you, right? And it's all a lack of safety. That's all it is. I don't feel safe. So that's it. That's what we have to do. Make you feel safe. That's all I do all day long. Right? is promote that sense of safety. Is to live it as best I can. Right? When anything comes up that triggers that, I stay with it until it has dissolved, whatever form it might take. Andrew, thank you, GP. Perfectly clear answer, despite me not fully posing the question. Good. You gave me enough. Janalia Devi, I heard from a scholar that the original was first Sikhi, the Queen of Heaven. Queendom. Original Hebrew word was feminine. That's interesting. Yeah, it's very likely. It's very likely. Right? It's just gotten so distorted. It's interesting that when Christ had the conversation with Peter, and Peter asked him who he was, and Peter actually recognized the not to nature of Christ. It didn't go all the way into him, but he recognized that it was the essence of God. He saw the non-dual Christ. Jesus recognized that and said, "Your name is Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." And Peter means Petre means rock, the masculine. When he said upon this rock, he used Petra, the feminine. Seems significant to me. Maybe I'm making something it shouldn't, because he gave Peter the masculine name, but he referred to the church as built on the feminine rock. And it was, of course, the women who followed him to the tomb, and as the legend goes, it was a woman who first saw him, and he gave a message to her to give to the disciples, who they didn't believe because she was a woman. And of course, in the Christian theology, the highest role of a human is to be a messenger of God. But anyway, I'm Sophia, right? Sophia. I'm digressing quite a bit. So what a breath of fresh air. We are graced by your understanding, articulated responses. Thank you. You're welcome. Be present with the pain of others. Yes. To the degree that you are present with your own pain, right? And that's where it has to start. It's both at the same time. It's not like you have to learn a skill to deal with people's pain. Deal with your own. You are learning the skill. That's how it's done. Be present, yeah. Sue. So good to have you here, Sue. I am you. Hearts, and I am you. Yes, and yes. Oh, thank you, Mary. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, John. I've exhausted the queue. Any more questions before I just decide to take a break or break it off early? This went very different, and it seemed to be one theme that kept going over and over throughout the entire thing. I don't think we'll be able to make any excerpts from this one. It was wonderful, sir. Oh, thank you, Fox. Everyone. I'm so grateful for you all. I am so grateful for you all. Thank you. Namaste.